Come on in. Make yourself comfortable. You carry it around with you until you can't anymore, and then you pass it on to someone else. Why risk the whispers in the alleys, the rumors and the fear? Well, I do it for you, my friend. I do it for the future of medicine. I may be alone, but I am not insane. I have assistants, many of them. They come to me willingly. We just part ways after a while, you know, when they've learned all they can. I set them up in clinics across the empire. They earn good coin, good name for themselves, all thanks to the research. Someone has to do it, you know? Someone has to push the boundaries of science, venture where no man has gone before. Someone has to unlock the secrets of the heart. And by God, if it kills me, I will do it. Haha. Now, I don't mind if you stay here a while. I won't bother you, unless you want to talk, of course. I have been alone for so long, you know. I sometimes forget that other people exist. So if you'd care to listen to an old fool ramble about hearts and souls and such, I am all ears. Haha. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get carried away. You must think me quite mad. You needn't worry, though. I am harmless, really. I only want to help others, you know, to relieve their suffering. That's all. Why? I cured the paralyzed child. Elise, remember. Walk again. Haha. Miracle. They called it. I call it a Tuesday. Well, then, shall we continue our little chat, or shall I show you my dissecting theater? Please, just stay away from the basement. It's nothing personal, you understand. I just have my work down there, and it's best not to interfere. Haha. So, what do you say? Care to sit and talk a while? Don't answer yet. I already know what you're thinking. You want to see the dog, don't you? Poor Nero. I don't blame you. He's got a lot of explaining to do. Haha. Just wait till next week, though. The butcher gets here on Mondays. Goodbye. It's like a contagion, isn't it? Spreading through the populace, bringing people to my doorstep. You see, I don't charge for my services. Not in coin. No. What I require is something far more precious, far more valuable. I require their memories. I require their sorrows, their regrets, their very essence. With that, I can craft a cure, tailor it to their needs. Without it, I am but a commoner. Haha, but I digress. Allow me to show you around. Here we have my collection. All of these hearts once beat, once pumped blood into lungs and limbs, and livers. Some still do. As for the rest, well, let us just say that they are retired. And over here is my newest acquisition. Isn't it lovely? Just look at those glistening fibers, taut with emotion. This heart once belonged to a young girl. She was afraid of the dark, you know, but she died bravely in a fire, saving her little brother. A bittersweet end, don't you think? I believe it was worth it. I mean, look at this thing. Just look at it. Can you feel the tension, the fear, the love? This, my friend, is what I live for. Oh, and if you'd like to see it in action, just pop your head in here and take a gander. What? No, you don't want to see a preserved heart beating in its jar, really? Suit yourself. Perhaps I'll show you this instead. Would you look at that? Wouldn't you like to know the secret? You know, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. Haha, sorry. Old habits die hard, you know. I used to be quite the charmer, back before I became engrossed in my work, before my late wife, Helena, died of the winter fever, leaving me with nothing but this house, these memories, and a locked basement. I digress again. You can drop your weapon there. Come to think of it, please do leave that mace outside. Thank you. Yes, of course. You know, I always welcome newcomers to my humble abode. I just ask that you refrain from touching anything. I mean, really, you wouldn't want to get your hands dirty now, would you? Well, then, how about you take a load off right here on this chair? Just don't mind the blood stains. They're just a part of the decor, you know. So, what brings you to my little corner of St. Erda? Is it my glowing reputation as a purveyor of miracles? Haha. My dear fellow, you are not far off. I am Dr. Albrecht Voss, surgeon. I specialize in hearts. Oh, you have one of those back home? How wonderful. Do you take it for granted I used to. I too once took mine for granted. Ah, yes, you see, I made it my life's work to understand the inner mechanisms of life. To that end, I've done some, shall we say, experiments. Yeah, that's right, experiments on the human heart. What else? This esteemed institution is accredited by the Royal Anatomical Society. You see, I became fascinated with the heart when I was but a wee surgeon. Fascinated and a little frightened, I might add. Such a small thing to contain so much power, so much potential for love and destruction. I made it my life's work to understand it, to conquer it, to become one with it. Ha ha. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mean to imply that the other physicians are inferior. Oh no, they are merely misguided. They treat the symptoms, not the cause. They are doctors. I am a surgeon. There is a difference, you know, when you're bleeding, a cut, a wound. That can be fixed. With a stitch, cauterization, maybe a prayer. But when it is the heart, that is where my talents are required. Why, just last week, I removed a noblewoman's heart, stitched it up and popped it back in her chest. She was good as new in a fortnight. Removed a young man's heart, replaced it with a mechanical marvel of clockwork and brass, sent him on his way to Spandau, where he now lives as a harmless pauper. Ah, yes, I've been called the man who stopped beating hearts. Some say my hands never tremble. That in the candlelit theatres beneath the Royal Anatomical Society, I could peel back the skin of death itself and make it whisper secrets. They say I can cure anything but grief, and grief, you know, is a curious thing. You must be wondering why I keep this place a secret. Let's do this. Let's get right into it. The steady thump of his gavel echoed through the silent hall. The Chancellor cleared his throat. He wanted to say something, anything, but nothing came out. A single bead of sweat traced a path through the powder on his face. Was it fear he felt? Or was it anticipation? Hadn't he been waiting for this moment all those years? In a letter addressed to no one and found in the hollow of a dead tree near the town square. You see them at parties, at social events, always in the best places, always surrounded by the most interesting people. And then one day they vanish and you never see them again. Have you ever wondered where they went? What if I told you they didn't go anywhere? What if they were never really there in the first place? Voss wrote, I have located the path to the hollow within. I have constructed the implements. The extraction will occur on the night of St. Tiberius. If I do not return, let the silence be my inheritance. On that night, there were no stars. Witnesses, though none could later recall their names, claimed to see a lantern flickering in the surgeon's upper window, moving in precise intervals. The next morning, no smoke rose from the chimney. The house was silent. They broke down the door. Inside, everything was cold, but not in the way of absence, cold like a cathedral before dawn. On the operating table lay Voss, motionless, arms crossed over his chest. His torso was open, yet clean, no blood, no heart. A single scalpel lay beside him, still warm. On the wall, scrawled in something like ink, or something like ash, was a final sentence. I have removed the jailer. All those years of watching Dr. Voss rise to prominence, of funding his research, of turning a blind eye to the disappearances, now the Chancellor was trapped in the grip of a nameless dread. Meanwhile, around the city, whispers had grown to unease. People still visited Dr. Voss, but now they arrived shrouded in dark cloaks, their faces pale, their eyes blinking too little or too much. Some spoke of dreams that filled them with a constant ticking sound, like a clock buried under skin. A noble woman, desperate to prove she was still alive, cut open her own wrist. It was only when the blood welled up that she knew she hadn't become one of Dr. Voss's empty shells. The Royal Anatomical Society, alarmed by rumors and the Chancellor's obvious discomfort, revoked his access to the city's cadavers, its dissecting rooms. But it didn't matter. Dr. Voss no longer needed their approval. He had already begun working solely. At home, at first they'd heard the work had been simple, routine dissections, maybe even autopsies, perhaps even some live operations. Then more bodies turned up in his cellar, mutilated, flayed, twisted into shapes the human form wasn't meant to bear. The chimney of his home smoked all night, day after day, and the cries that came from the cellar were neither human nor holy animal. Nero the dog had vanished, and when asked, Voss said only, "He's inside now." By the time winter settled over the city, Dr. Voss had stopped attending funerals. It wasn't out of apathy, he'd explain, his eyes glittering with fervor, but because he no longer believed in death as an end. In his writings, he spoke of the septic echo, a theory that memory, not blood, sustained the body, that if the heart could be removed without disrupting the echo, the soul might persist, might echo. Elsewhere, those who entered his home spoke of a place out of time. Drawings pinned to the walls showed anatomies that didn't exist, hearts shaped like eyes, rib cages inverted like prisons, diagrams of veins forming the shape of trees, and always that smell like old blood and lilies. At the center of it all, a large iron table with restraints not for the patient, but the surgeon, and above it, a mirror. On the night of April, the breakthrough came. Have you ever met someone who seemed to be everywhere at once? Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video. In the year 1820, a renowned German surgeon by the name of Dr. Karl Voss successfully removed a human heart. At least he had. It was his patient, a Mr. Bissing. They stormed the doctor's home, dragged him through the streets, and beat him within an inch of his life. But when they went to embalm his body, something strange happened. That was until one day the caretaker was polishing the glass coffin, in preparation for the annual ritual where they moved it to the surface for cleaning. An elaborate hoax perpetrated by overzealous medical students. Every single man who guarded that crypt dreamed of the same thing, a long hallway without end, and at its center a door made of ribs. Until one day in 1963, the Vatican quietly acquired Dr. Voss's journals, removing them from the University of Freiburg's archives. Stay tuned for more terrifying tales next week. And as always, thanks for watching. And while we don't know exactly why, many speculate that it had to do with these strange symbols found throughout his notes. Symbols that resembled nothing so much as the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Could it be that Dr. Voss didn't merely remove his patient's heart, but transplanted it into himself? Sure, it sounds like a far-fetched theory, but consider this. Why did he spend his entire career studying death? Because he wanted to cheat it, to find a way to live forever. And what better way to accomplish that than by stealing another person's heart, thereby granting himself immortality? After all, wouldn't that explain why he wrote this in one recovered note? The heart is not the seat of love, it is the anchor. Remove it, and the soul floats free. Was he talking about himself, about Bissinger? Or perhaps he was talking about something else entirely, something that replaced his heart, something that is still watching. Behind it, a heartbeat, soft, deliberate, and always watching. Eventually, the stories surrounding Dr. Voss and his glass case became so numerous that a young medical student named Clara Muller actually broke into the catacombs to study the legendary corpse. Problem was she was never seen again. Days later, she was found wandering the streets, barefoot, murmuring, "He's not dead, he's waiting for a body that fits." But the catacombs caretaker knew otherwise. He confided in the priest who heard confessions in the next confessional box over, and together they hatched a plan to keep the students away. See, every night the caretaker would light a single white candle beside the coffin, and every morning he would come in to find the candle extinguished. He believed that somehow the spirit of Dr. Voss was trying to warn him to make the surgery that took his heart, reverse it, and set his soul free. So instead of wasting the church's money replacing the candle, he began bringing his own. But no matter how many he brought, every morning he would find them all snuffed out. Only this time, when he buffed away the grime, he saw a face staring back at him. Not the face of Dr. Voss, no, that was underneath several layers of protective material. Instead, it was the face of the man whose heart Dr. Voss removed all those years ago, Bissinger. Now, obviously, this was a bit disturbing. Here was a man who died 15 years ago, yet somehow his face was perfectly preserved down here in the catacombs. There was no heart. In fact, the organ cavity was entirely empty, like it had never been occupied by a heart at all. Now, as you might imagine, This was quite unsettling, but Dr. Voss had already made arrangements. He'd written a letter to the Archbishop explaining that, should such an occurrence happen, his body was to be placed in a sealed glass coffin and hidden in the catacombs beneath the cathedral. And while everyone was weirded out by the idea of a glass coffin, it was less weird than the alternative, which was the church conducting an autopsy to try and determine whatever happened to his heart. And when he finally regained consciousness, the authorities had already buried the evidence, erasing any record of the failed surgery. With his reputation and freedom destroyed, Voss threw himself on the mercy of the Archbishop, offering to build him a chapel in exchange for sanctuary, and so he spent his remaining days in the relative peace of St. Erda Cathedral, until one day he himself fell gravely ill. The irony was not lost on anyone in town. Here was the man who devoted his entire life to cheating death, now begging it to be merciful, who awoke from surgery only to immediately expire on the table. Now, perhaps you're thinking this isn't much of a story. We've all heard of open-heart surgery gone wrong, but this wasn't some botched procedure. This was the culmination of a plan Dr. Voss had been working towards his entire career. You see, ever since he was a young boy, Voss had been obsessed with the concept of death, how it could be cheated, delayed, or maybe even reversed. So he studied tirelessly, performing countless experiments, both animal and human, all to answer one simple what if? But after Bissinger's untimely demise, the townspeople had enough, and so on his deathbed, he requested one final operation, performed by the best surgeons in the city. And so, years passed and people forgot about the incident. Now, the Archbishop claimed that this was simply a fluke. Then there were the dreams. From that point forward, requests to view the body were denied and the coffin was locked away, hidden from the world. All right, everyone, that was our creepiest surgeon story.